or more fun things planned for afterwards. That it'll be 2 minutes, yeah. Each. And Merritt, can you give a thumbs up sign if you can hear? Okay, perfect. Hey. All right. Yeah. Would you prefer to just have the mic over there? So we don't have to. All right. So hello. My name is Nabila. I'm representing the OSU-OKC student government. Thank you everyone for joining us today, both in person and on live stream for the Ward 6 and Ward 8 City Council Forum. I would like to thank the candidates for making time to talk to us today. And just to clarify, this is not a debate. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. There will be the same 4 questions for each candidate. Each candidate will be given a time warning at 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and end of time. Before we start, I would like to thank our co-hosts, Let's Fix This, Oklahoma Civics Learning Coalition, and Vote for Change. So let's go ahead and start. We will be starting with Ward 6. Councilperson Hammond, if you would like to start, the first question is introduce yourself and tell us why you are running for City Council.
Yeah, well, thank you all for being here. My name's Jo Beth. I am currently the Ward 6 City Council person, and my full-time job and my background are in mental health and social services, public health. My sort of outlook on governance, on community building, is that when we build a community that works best for people that are in the margins, people that our institutions aren't working well for, we're creating a community that works better for everyone. So investing in things like affordable housing, appropriate crisis response for people experiencing behavioral health crises, and investing in things like sidewalks, public transit, making our public transit robust and being able to use it with dignity really helps anyone, even if you don't need those things, because that means that there aren't people experiencing homelessness near or in your neighborhood. The people that need to get to work using the bus so they can have a good job and take care of their families have those things, and heaven forbid that any of us need it, but when someone else or maybe someone has a behavioral health crisis, you're not rolling the dice when you call 911 on whether that person is going to get the care they need. So, that's the kind of voice and mindset that I always want to bring to the spaces I'm in, and there's still a lot of work to be done in the city on those issues, so that is why I'm running.
Thank you, Councilperson Hammond. Next, we will have Merritt Cornett. Can you test the audio? Yes. And your timekeeper, go ahead, is, I don't know if you can visually see the 30.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. So hi, first of all, thank you so much for the host for tonight, and thank you all for attending
Thank you. All right. Moving on to our next question.
Let me introduce myself.
Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. My bad, yeah.
Hi, everyone. I always like to begin with an introduction. Hesje Estango, Amy Warren, Chio Chief Kados. That is Muskogee for hello, how are you? My name is Amy Warren. I hold 3 higher education degrees in healthcare management, nutritional sciences, and have an MBA. I am a registered and licensed dietitian and have served in healthcare since 2007. Representation matters. We have an opportunity to make history, to have a city council look like it's never looked like before, and to elect the first Native American into the council. I have seen and heard the call for representation in my time as a volunteer, community organizer, and in my professional space. I have a perspective that is long past due in a space that makes decisions on water, green space, land, and infrastructure. My background in healthcare has taught me how to assess a situation and make the best decision based on facts and empathy. My current representative has made decisions in my name that I disagree with, and my values are not currently reflected. My values stem from a family that was forcibly removed here, who survived the long walk, who was instrumental in keeping the Muskogee oral histories alive. They also stem from a family who started a small business in their garage, whose company is still thriving today and is an integral part of the arts community. I've been taught through my culture and tradition to be a good listener, to be respectful, to care for my elders and youth, and to be honest. That does not mean I won't speak directly and with authority. It is my job to care for people and advocate for them, and that is what I will do in this capacity. Mado.
All right, we will start question number 2 with Councilperson Hammond. This question is over affordable housing and homelessness. Rents in Oklahoma City went up 30% last year. Homelessness is a frequent complaint to city staff and representation. These things are related. What will you do as a counselor to prioritize affordable housing and address the underlying causes of homelessness?
Thank you. Yeah. So to me, there's a few different things we can be doing. They sort of revolve around funding sources for housing and affordable housing in particular, some zoning reform and development code updates we can pursue, as well as working with state stakeholders to help pass improving tenant protections at the state level, as well as increasing our minimum wage to an actual living and housing wage. So particularly, when people go to develop housing in our city, and this is across the country, there is a profit motive that comes with it. And so often those sources that go to fund housing, whether it's single family or multifamily, come with an intention of some kind of return on investment that is financial. So often what cities, governments will do is provide what we call gap funding. That's essentially, we're going to provide some public funds for you in order to essentially say, okay, you're going to create a certain number of units, or this house is going to have some accessibility around affordability. And we just don't have a lot of those sources at the city level. Our federal and our state resources get zapped pretty quickly every year when they are available. And so in this next bond, the 2025 or 2026 bond, I really want to see us investing more in especially low income housing. I only have like 30 seconds left, so I'll try to make it a little quicker. The other piece around our development code update is making sure that smaller scale developers have access to navigate our city processes so they aren't so cumbersome, take up a lot of time, and And in that world, time is money. And so being able to expedite some of those processes can also help us make sure we get more units available to people.
Thank you, Councilperson Hammond. Next, we have candidate Cornett.
Thank you. So under current state law, just like Councilwoman Hammond said, it's illegal actually for municipal at the municipal level to have any kind of rent control. And so being able to work with state representatives on getting something changed where we could actually maybe put a cap on increase of rent year over year would definitely be impactful. There's also stuff that we can do as far as our zoning goes, which that zoning update will allow for some smaller developments that will have more affordable options. So we will be able to do accessory dwelling units as well as duplexes without having to go through a cumbersome process within the city to get those through. And then that also is going to require a lot of outreach from the city to change the perception of infill developments in general. Creating density is really needed to have a healthy city, and there can be some misconceptions about what that looks like. And so just making sure that everybody is on the same page, especially when we're at 6, we can definitely stand to have some density, and I would love to see it. But now's the time to build that consensus and actually work with others to make it happen. And it's Oklahoma City citizens who lose whenever we play games with their funding sources and also some of the rules that we've put in place for them at the city council level in the past few years that actually makes it more expensive for people to build. And so we definitely need to look at removing some of those barriers to make it more affordable to build housing in general, and then also make it safe for families to live in. Thanks.
Thank you, candidate Cornett. Next, we have candidate Warren.
We have seen how renters have been priced out of housing, often only having weeks to come up with additional funds or to find a new place to live. People and families have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Many candidates have the same priority in wanting to address the housing crisis. It is in the approach that's different. What I won't do as a city councilor is propose ordinances that aim to criminalize our unhoused community. Research suggests that stabilizing people through shelter, moving them into permanent housing, and implementing housing assistance programs reduces homelessness and are less expensive than institutional care, including hospitals and correctional facilities. The housing affordability study is already in place and includes best practices from experts. The city plan calls for inclusionary zoning practices, affordable by design development, reduction of permit costs, and other reforms. But that is not enough. The funds allocated in MAPS 4 to address this issue are only a fraction of what it will take to care for our unhoused community. We must include efforts to address the housing crisis in the next bond issue, and I believe we need to focus on median income workers who need affordable housing and are all too often overlooked. We also need to increase supportive services such as financial literacy and understand that housing first does not mean housing only. People deserve access to food, mental and physical health services, education, and economic opportunity.
Thank you, candidate Warren. Our next question is surrounding mental health and police response. Oklahoma Police Department has had high-profile shootings of unarmed people, specifically of those suffering from mental health crises. Recently, police were given large raises and pledges for more funding, despite no improvement in these numbers. What will you do to address community concerns about police violence and develop alternative responses to police, especially for mental health?
Well, I'm going to forget the date because my brain is a little bit mushy, but In 2020, we did pass a resolution to study a handful of potential reforms, one of them being appropriate response to mental health and behavioral health crises. In the study, we hired a consultant. Throughout that study, one of the recommendations that came forward was that we should move forward with implementing alternative appropriate responses for mental health crises. And while that is there, it has been moving very slowly. And to me, part of that is that we haven't really made the case to fully tell the story of what the problem is. So in May of this year, I asked for the top 10 911 calls that we would send police to from our dispatch system, and the first 9 had nothing to do with an explicit law being broken. They were so vague that what I learned just last month is that our system is actually so outdated and so wooden and inflexible that we can't actually fully track what we're sending police to respond to. And so one of the things that I think we really need to be doing is updating that system so that we have a better sense of what are we even sending our police officers to, and what other kinds of responses do we need to build to both prevent the need for those crises, to have someone go respond to a crisis, but also the appropriate response to those crises themselves. And I guess I'll stop there because I'm running out of time.
Thank you, Councilperson Hammond. Next, we have candidate Cornett.
I do want to address the statement that was made before the question, and that salaries do need to be competitive for any industry, and they're not a reward for macro statistical trends. And so we're seeing the same thing play out with teachers at the state level, of whether that should be merit-based or if that should actually be a cost of wage, like what their wage should actually be. And so
I'm sorry, candidate, not to interrupt, candidate Cornett, is this addressing which question?
the Oklahoma City Police Department question.
Okay.
The hypothetical shootings.
Okay, sorry, go.
Well, you're fine. No, I'm just saying that we're seeing a lot of the same arguments that are being made for teachers, but we're using them against police on whether or not they should receive funding or increases in pay raise to remain competitive. And so I just wanted to address that part, because it is the same is true for police force, that paying them a competitive wage is crucial to hiring better candidates so that we're not losing them out to Tulsa or Edmond or Norman or the Highway Patrol. So I just wanted to address that statement that was made before the question, so that I can actually thoughtfully answer the question. I do support the implementation of the task force, and I do support the city's ongoing efforts to implement alternative responses. And I know that they are open and willing. I've had many conversations with our police department that they are open and willing to move in the direction of alternative response, and they are actually implementing a lot of those things currently.
Thank you, candidate Cornett. Next, candidate Warren.
I want to take a moment to recognize all the people we have lost in our community due to unfortunate interactions with police. Public safety is more than just policing. It's food security, access to green space, health care, a roof over your head, youth development opportunities, and so much more. As a healthcare provider who has spent time working with people with behavioral health and developmental disabilities, we must ensure they are not being discriminated against and have access to the treatment they need and deserve. I've seen firsthand in my professional experience the difference compassionate intervention has in improving outcomes for adults with behavioral health disabilities. We must continue to develop relationships with experts in the field of behavioral health and the city must make further progress to connect people in crisis with appropriate resources that meet their needs. We must better utilize services that specialize in mental health and de-escalation. We can't only be reactive. We are not investing enough in prevention. We do have some services, such as the Better Way vans, and we can do more. That means ensuring all civic departments and services have the necessary tools to survive. I understand the city's need to partner with police, and I understand the police are not mental health experts. That means employing more social workers, street medics, and other experts trained in de-escalation. Policing is the last line of defense in public safety. And when we prioritize only it in our public safety spending, we are accepting and planning to fail in all other areas that keep our communities safe.
Thank you. Thank you, Candidate Warren. Our next question is around public transportation. Oklahoma has made slow, steady progress in recent years with public transit. With the addition of rapid bus transit coming online in the next couple of years, what more can be done to improve our transit system?
Well, I feel uniquely equipped to answer this as someone who took the bus here and had to cross an intersection at Portland and 10th that was less than friendly. It's a little bit of a no man's land. So, you know, we did in MAPS 4 put aside dollars to, in addition to the Northwest Bus Rapid Transit line that will come on later this year, we have 2 that will be planned and are in the process of planning. If you want to go take that survey, you can do so at okc.gov/maps4 to give input on the northeast and the south side bus rapid transit and where those will be aligned. We also put aside money for to upgrade 500 bus stops with shelters, benches, and lights, so that and concrete pads, so you're waiting with dignity. It has access to sidewalks for accessibility for people in wheelchairs, strollers, all those sorts of things. So for us to get to 15-minute frequency is, in my opinion, the next step. Right now, most of our buses run on 30-minute frequency. On the weekends, it's an hour. So for us to get to that 15-minute frequency for at least the weekdays, we need to really increase our fleet, and that also would come with an additional investment in hiring more drivers, more operators, all of the maintenance costs that go along with that. So that's a budget piece that we need to address, as well as potentially, again, something for the 25-26 bond. So because what we're doing right now is we have a hub and spoke system where almost all the buses touch the downtown hub, and it's not the most efficient way we can be running our system. If we can align more to a grid system, that gets us to a point where we're just serving people more efficiently and making those connections better for folks that rely on the service.
Thank you, Councilperson Hammond. Next, we have Candidate Cornett.
Anybody who uses our transit system will tell you that frequency and speed and convenience are going to be the barrier to our current system. BRT will solve a few of those issues, but only on the designated line that's currently running. And so, obviously, as it grows, we will have a little bit more accessibility, but increasing connectivity to those BRT stops is going to be, and frankly all bus stops, is going to be really key to making this successful. So how do you get to your platform or the bus bench if you want to catch the bus? And so access to neighborhoods is really imperative. And then honestly, giving BRTs their own lane would have been a really great step, and maybe we'll get there someday. I know that there was a lot of resistance this last round, but that has that has led to a lot of success in other cities. Another thing that we need to look at to make our transit system better as a whole, and that other systems have done effectively, would be moving our system to be free. And so that would be every bus rider, every BRT rider, every streetcar rider would have free access to that. Transit riders are often working class folks, and this would be a huge move in making it a social equalizer where we can provide opportunity through transit. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Cornett. Next candidate Warren.
One of my priorities in my platform is improving connectivity from Ward 8 to the rest of the city. There is currently but one Embark bus line available to Ward 8 residents, and very little of the route is accessible to residential neighborhoods. As it stands, Ward 8 residents have the option to be picked up at Mercy Hospital or Quail Springs Mall. With the geography of Ward 8 as it is, some residents would need to travel over 5 miles to utilize our transit system. A 4-hour round-trip journey to and from the bus stop is just not feasible. I talked to residents on the doors. I talked to them about transit, and their concerns are, why not have a bus stop at the local library? And why aren't there ADA accessible bus stops in the ward? I am grateful for the upcoming implementation of bus rapid transit. Still, the nearest stop for Ward 8 residents would be over 2 miles away. Increasing bus lines and BRT for all Oklahoma City is critical. We also need to consider implementing environmentally sound development of infrastructure. We need to remember our natural infrastructure as essential to our health and sustainability. And we must be mindful of ADA compliance standards as we move forward in modernizing Oklahoma City's infrastructure, specifically when it comes to our sidewalks and bus shelters. We must thoughtfully improve infrastructure that serves all of our constituents in Oklahoma City, and that includes Ward 8. Thank you.
All right, so those are all the questions. I do want to thank all the candidates for their time and for being here and for your thoughtful responses. And we are done for the night, so thank you.